Hi, I'm Matthew Lapp, host of Matthew Lapp Train Guy Segment Show. Also today in this segment, I'm at the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association in Sioux City, Iowa, and continuing episode 2 with part 2. Okay, I'm going to show you all the exhibits inside the Roundhouse, and here's part 2 of it. So I'll get behind the camera, and here we go. Okay, so here we go inside the Roundhouse, and let's look at this back here. You can see that picture on the wall. End of a century. If you want to pause and read what all that says, I'll be glad to move over here if you care to look there. This is the most of these pictures are of the museum today. And look at this case right here. All these old railroad artifacts. Sorry, let me try this again. Wow, pretty cool. And look at this picture right here as I go back. If you want to pause and look at all that, you can. This is like the Iowa. Wow. Oh yeah, that's down in the corner is the first steam engine to enter the state of Minnesota. It was owned by the Great Northern Railroad, but it's at the Lake Superior Railroad Museum in Duluth. Look at these HO scale models. You can see that these are builder's plates, Paducah shops, General Motors, EMD, General Electric, and an SD9 as well. That came off a CB&Q SD9, it looks like. But these are coded to tell you that they were built by these companies. And yeah, but that looks like an SD9 right there. Let's look at more. But I'm going to show you the main area of the Roundhouse. Look at this. You might remember this from part 1 of this video where I showed the exhibits. Here's how 1355 came to the museum and its timeline. And if you press this button right here, it will make these wheels go. These are wheels of a live steam engine, and a bit smaller than the tracks that run outside. They also got that working just recently, the time I made this video. Let's look at more so you're not bored looking at that. And look at these cases right here. The NSF vest and hard hat as a Union Pacific headlight. And here's a jean jacket that looks like engineer overalls, locomotive crew overalls, and a hat as well. And look at this case down here. Those are all, a lot of these show the Milwaukee Road logo because this area was the Milwaukee Road shops in Roundhouse, which we're in the Roundhouse right now. Rock Island, Santa Fe, Burlington Northern, Northern Pacific, CB&Q, Great Northern, Spokane, Portland, and Seattle, Union. Oh yeah, these are what tell you the railroad's family tree. Like there's Canadian National, Union Pacific, 6936, which is at the RHMA Railroad Heritage Midwest America in Silvis, Illinois, at their base, Burlington Northern, Santa Fe. Yeah, let's look at more. And here's a crossing light right here. as well as a track switch signal. Those are like modern days. And let's look in here. This used to be where you could pay to enter the museum, but now it's in that building, that brick building right there. This is the map of the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad. Here's a board if you want to pause and read that if you can see closely. Here's a switch stand and an old-fashioned telephone. And let's go back in the Roundhouse. And let's look at that case. Oh, let's look at this case first. Look at these. Railway Express Agency, Santa Fe Chief, Wells Fargo Express, Amtrak. And that xylophone thing right there is when dinner was ready. That's an Amtrak police badge, as well as a conductor's hat, and a lot of patches that would be on sleeves. And here's some old railroad keys right here, and some gauges from steam locomotives. I wonder what these are. Here's a baggage cart with barrels and old suitcases right here. And this looks like a diorama of a roundhouse. It almost looks like the roundhouse we're in. That looks like the Great Northern steam engine in here. That's on display here. And that's a Milwaukee Road steam engine. This is HO scale. Look at these nails. Tell you the dates. Or tag device is used by railroads to track the life of railroad ties. They come in different lengths of type of material and shapes. Most date nails are steel, though many are copper, aluminum, Malabel iron, or brass. And here's some tools in this case right here, including the paintbrush. And here's a steam locomotive's headlight, and here's what it says. You can see that clearly. This light comes from a steam locomotive operated by the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul, the Milwaukee Road for short. If you want to read the rest, feel free to pause. You can see that clearly. Yeah, modern light. And that looks like a bell, and there's a whistle as well. And that's all to see. What you see right behind me is Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul 121. Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul 121 was built by the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad shops in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1948 and is a diner car. For several years, this car was where people would sit at tables while they would eat their breakfast, lunch, or dinners on board. It features 48 seats and a kitchen inside. It saw service on passenger trains many years ago. It saw service on the Olympia and Hiawatha passenger train on the railroad many years ago. In 1956, the car was repainted yellow when it was used jointly by the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul, Union Pacific, and Southern Pacific between Chicago, Milwaukee, and the West Coast, and it took over joint operation of the Union Pacific City's passenger trains into Chicago. It even traveled on Union Pacific's named trains, such as the City of Los Angeles and the City of San Francisco. Then the car was retired from service and was then sold to J.W. Kerslake in South Dakota. Eventually, it got repainted back into its Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul paint scheme. Later, it was bought by Paul Tagstorm in 1996. It was then moved to the Sioux City Railroad Museum in Sioux City, Iowa, and soon joined the collection. Today, It is preserved here at the Sioux City Railroad Museum in Sioux City, Iowa, where it is seen on display today, and also you can even visit the interior of the car as well. What you see right behind me is the Chicago, Rock Island, and Pacific Boxcar. The Chicago, Rock Island, and Pacific Boxcar was built in 1929 and is a boxcar. This car's original number is unknown. For many years, this car spent several years hauling cargo that a boxcar like this one hauled on board when it was used in freight service, such as boxes or rolls of paper or any other products it may have hauled many years ago. It was later retired and it then belonged to a gentleman named Keith Olson in Atlantic, Iowa. In 2021, he then donated the car to the Sioux City Railroad Museum in Sioux City, Iowa, and it was then moved to the museum by Meyer Towing. Today, it is on display here at the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association in Sioux City, Iowa, where it can be seen on display today. What you see right behind me is the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Sioux City Roundhouse. The Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Sioux City Roundhouse was built in 1917 and has been in this spot for several years. The building originally had 30 stalls. The facility served as a divisional terminal for servicing steam and diesel locomotives and repairing rail cars. The building also housed locomotives inside as well. Then in 1981, the railroad closed the property. Then the site was sold by the railroad to a farm machinery salvage operator and was soon a junkyard, and the roundhouse was included, as well as other parts of the complex. Then it was about to be demolished along with the other historic buildings, but thankfully there was light at the end of the tunnel. And in 1991, the city of Sioux City and the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association entered into a development agreement to preserve this site. The city's urban renewal was planned for the Riverside neighborhood, identified and recommended a potential redevelopment of the Milwaukee Railroad Shops Historic District as a historical attraction. The roundhouse was soon going under renovations, and the roundhouse was carefully restored inside and out. Today, there are only 6 stalls that remain. One end is the gift shop, and most areas of the building are where a lot of train cars and locomotives are seen in public view inside as well. And at the other end of the roundhouse has the Holocaust exhibit as well. What you see right behind me is Denver and Rio Grande 22446. Denver and Rio Grande 22446 was built by the Denver and Rio Grande shops in Denver, Colorado, 1951, and is a bulkhead flat car. This car once hauled cargo such as plywood, pipes, as long as they were tied together, logs, wood, and steel beams, and many others that this car carried a long time ago. Then later it was retired and was then acquired by the Pikes Peak Historical Street Railway in Colorado Springs, Colorado. In 2022, it was then bought by the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association in Sioux City, Iowa, where it can be seen today. Okay, right here is one of the two cars that are based off the two cars that are in the Hiawatha paint scheme on the tracks that go around here at the museum grounds here in Sioux City, Iowa. Let's show you the other one. Okay, here's the other car that is part of the train set that goes around the museum grounds here in Sioux City, Iowa. And yeah, it looks just like it in the same blueprint, except this gap right here is big enough for like wheelchairs. And yeah, what you see right behind me is Chicago Northwestern 11009. Chicago and Northwestern 11009 was built by the Flatcar Manufacturing Company in Chicago Heights, Illinois in 1960 and is a bay window caboose. This caboose was used on the back of freight trains on the Chicago and Northwestern Railroad and was also used as the train crew's office as well. Later, it was retired and was then acquired by the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association in Sioux City, Iowa, where it is on display today. The paint was soon starting to fade whenever it sat outdoors. Then about 2016, it was moved inside the Roundhouse and was then being repainted and was soon looking good as new. Then it soon went back on display. Today, it can be found here on display at the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association in Sioux City, Iowa, where it is seen today. What you see right behind me is Chicago Northwestern 16970. Chicago and Northwestern 16970 was built by Pullman Standard in 1969 and is a 50-foot boxcar. For many years, this car was used to haul cargo that a boxcar like this one hauled on board when it was used in freight service, such as boxes or rolls of paper or any products it may have hauled many years ago. Later, it was retired and it was then acquired by the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association in Sioux City, Iowa, where it is preserved today. What you see right behind me is Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul, 1984. Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul, 1984 was built in 1968 and is a bay window caboose. This car was never built for the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad. Originally, the car was built for the Chicago Northwestern Railroad and was originally numbered
11168. This caboose was used on the back of freight trains on the Chicago Northwestern Railroad and was also used as the train crew's office as well. Later, it was retired and was then acquired by the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association in Sioux City, Iowa, and was repainted orange and renumbered 1984, as if it resembles a Chicago Milwaukee and St. Paul caboose, and has a reporting mark SLHX as well. The real caboose that was numbered 1984 is at the Illinois Railway Museum in Union, Illinois. Today, this caboose is seen here at the Sioux City Railroad Museum in Sioux City, Iowa, where it is preserved today, and sometimes it is seen rolling on the grounds as well.
What you see right behind me is the Flatcar.
This flat car was built somewhere around the 1900s and is a flat car. Both the railroad this flat car was used for and number it had is unknown, and this flat car was used for hauling things like construction machines on wheels, pipes, steel, and all other types of cargo it once hauled many years ago, and it may be possible it was once used by the Chicago Northwestern Railroad years ago. Then later on, this flat car was retired and was somewhere else. In 2021, it was acquired by the Sioux City Railroad Museum in Sioux City, Iowa, and when it arrived, it had the Holocaust car on top, and it was transported to the museum with the Holocaust car riding on top. When it was on the semi-trailer, the Holocaust car was taken off this car and the flat car was then moved outside. Today, it is here at the Siouxland Historical Railroad Association in Sioux City, Iowa, where it is preserved today.
Okay, you can see right here is a trolley that is here at the Sioux City Railroad Museum, but this trolley was just built on a maintenance of way boggy, as it's underneath the trolley body, and the chassis is the maintenance of way flatbed. And I think this trolley was just built for fun, or might look like it's something to do with the parade float. There are pictures inside, and I'll show you all the pictures of it. This is based off the Toontown trolley. So here we go inside. So if you want to pause and look at the pictures, you can, and read what everything says. Yeah. And even cartoon trolleys. Toonerville Trolley. Oh yeah, I thought this would be Toontown Trolley it's based off, but it appears to be based off a cartoon trolley like this one you see here. What you see right behind me is Florida and Alabama 18.
Florida and Alabama 18 was built by Baldwin in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1920 and is the 528 50th steam locomotive built by that